Hello everyone, welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. I am Dr. K. Anita, Assistant Professor, Department of Journalism, Osmania University. Today's class we are going to discuss about process, role and scope of communication. Communication is very vital for our daily life and communicator plays a very crucial role. Communicator is nothing but a person who speaks. That could be a teacher, writer or a speaker or a leader or a reporter, anybody who is intended to communicate. But before speaking or writing, the message is first thought of. So what you have to do is think of something that you wanted to talk. So good communicator can think clearly, organize things in a very proper way and communicate quickly and express them very effectively. So it is an art that you need to excel. So here the communicator is the encoder and the message is the symbol, and the channel is one of the transmission medium, and the receiver is the decoder who gives feedback, is the response of the message. And there's something called like noise, which is an interruption that breaks down the communication. Now all these terms might be little new to you. Let us try to decode them in a proper way to understand it in a better way. So when you talk about any communication, as I told you, you have to think of it first in your mind. So whenever you are thinking it in your mind, it is called encoder. So you are trying to encoding the message. Then as a sender you send it, then it is getting message is sent through one particular channel. Then through a channel, once it is received at the receiver ends, you have a decoding concept going on, because that person has to analyze the content that you are giving and then he will respond back to you. So when he is responding back to you, then we talk about feedback. So in this chat, you can also see something called like noise. Noise is something which disturbs the communication. So it's something which is creating a gap between the communicator and the receiver. But when we go into more details about this, the communicator, as I said, the one who initiates the communication, and how he initiates, he formulates that message in his mind before, then he forms it in a message thing through a channel. Channel can be anything. If it is a direct communication between you and me, my mouth is a channel. But if you are listening to me through a TV or a radio or a newspaper, it is that particular channel that you are following. And then the receiver is a person who is receiving the message. Once he receives the message, he will decode it, in the sense he is trying to understand what you are trying to tell. Actually, the receiver is looking for meanings in the message which is in common to both of us. When I am communicating to you, you should understand the way I wanted you to understand. You understand it in the other way, then definitely it has got disturbed. So which tells that clearly to the sender that the message is properly communicated? The feedback. So if the feedback is the way you expect, then the communication is successful. But it is not the way you expected, there is something which went wrong, and that is called noise, which is an interruption that can creep at any point of time and disturb the communication process. So it can make the communication ineffective. So you need to be careful about these things. Of course, we will discuss about them in detail, but when communication occurs, when person A communicates a message which is B through a channel of a C to a person D with an effect of E. Some authors describe this as S to R of the stimulus response process, or the interaction between source and receiver. Thus, a source and receiver sending for two informations that are required to be reference each other. Stimulus is anything that sets our sensory organs into motion and sends message to the mind. So if you are getting influenced with what I am telling or getting in your mind, then that communication is successful. Now there are certain analytical stages that are very important. To be a speaker, you need to be well aware of what you are talking. A communication process begins with somebody saying something and ends with receiver receiving it. But dominating three elements are awareness, action and self-expression. What is an awareness? First stage is, whenever you wanted to talk, you need to make a proper understanding of the concept. You need to have a lot of content in your mind. Prepare as per your target people are and create the content. So having an awareness is important. And then communication should not spot at stop at one creating awareness. It must lead to action. Whatever I am telling, it should also influence you and you should implement whenever you are trying to communicate. So, people actively participating, involving in that is the core purpose of any communication. And self-expression, it begins as external communication but turns into self-direction expression through repeated activity and satisfaction. So, as you keep continuing effectively, you will understand where you are going wrong, how you should improvise and how can you do it better. So, studying this process constantly and understanding improving yourself is very, very important in this analytical 3 stages: awareness, action and self-expression. There are various factors that actually influence the communication. As per Aristotle, who says that we have to look at 3 things: the speaker, the speech and the audience. He meant that each of these elements is vital to communication. We can organize our study of the process under heading of the speaker. The speaker is nothing but the sender and the speech is nothing but the message that you are trying to give. And finally, the listener is somebody who is the receiving end and also we call him as a receiver. So, in 1947, Claude Shannon, a mathematician, and Shannon Weaver, these are the 2 authors who are also electronic engineers, presented a model which is called as a communication, how communication works in a telephonic system. So, as long as you are communicating to a person directly, where you have an interpersonal communication going on. But when there is a machine or a device included, there comes another different level of type of communication, which is called a telephonic system or any other electronic system. So, they said that the factors in communication are the source, transmitter, message, receiver and destination. Here you can look at another important element introduced in this model, which says transmitter. Transmitter is a channel through which it is going, but transmitter can also create disturbance but it is a vehicle that is carrying the message also. This model is very similar to the earlier one by the Aristotle, where he said speaker, speech and listener, but one element he added here is the transmitter. Although it does not 2 extract functions, which we will look at about it later, but the main factors of any communication are the speaker, speech and the listener. So, the role of communication in society is about throughout the history, man has struggled to create new ways of sharing ideas, speech and hearing first. Later, it is with the body language like gestures, raising eyebrows or smiling. These gave birth to letters and figures. So, it took nearly 5 lakh more years advance for purely overall communication to be earlier and the writing of a clay table. So, like this traveling of the printing has happened. Slowly once printing has come, lot of improvement has come in the process of communication. Once the printing has come, later next level is the communication revolution through photography, television or film or radio and many other satellite communication means. So, the role is changing every time from time to time. We will discuss about in detail in coming session, but definitely it has started with something called like spoken word, gestures and then later telephone and film, and now today we are in the satellite and social media communication. So, there are basically, when you are trying to create a communication, you have to look at 7 C's of communication. What are they? Credibility, content, context, clarity, continuity and consistency, channels and receiver. So, what is credibility? Credibility means the source from where the information is coming. We believe if it is coming from a newspaper, we believe if it is coming from a regular TV channel. But if somebody like whom you know or your neighbor is saying something which is very unusual, then you may not trust them. So, that is called credibility. And the context in which you are trying to talk, very important. If you are talking out of context, people may not like to listen to you. So, you lose your listener there. And content, what kind of words you are using, how you are pronouncing, how are you presenting matters a lot. And clarity, clarity is very important when you have an understanding of your target group. Your target group is always maybe a layman to a expertise. So, you need to understand with their level, try to speak. And continuity and consistency is very, very important. Telling a message at one point of time and leaving it for a long period of time may not give good effect. So, repeated, that is why we see advertisements repeatedly. So, Then comes the channel. Channel is very important. You may get some kind of audiences in newspapers, some kind of audiences in TV, some in social media. So, you need to have a proper understanding who is your target group and what kind of channel is important. And finally, you need to understand your receiver, who is your target group. So, in this way, communication plays an important role in a personal life and a family life, and even of course a cultural life of a person. It is connected to all human activities, and the fundamentals of human need is that essential to share information, express your ideas effectively. In this process, we try to understand what are the different elements that are there here, how the process of communication is happening, what are the important functions like inform, educate and entertain, as well as understand the purpose of communication. So, we just discussed about this process, 3 basic stages, that is awareness and also the action and self-expression, along with 7 C's of communication. Hope you understood this lesson. Thank you so much.